Are we going to see Ravindra Jadeja as the captain of the Rajasthan Royals in IPL 2026?
With so much buzz going on regarding the IPL trade, especially the news between Sanju Samson and Ravindra Jadeja, it's really important to understand how the IPL trade works. Interestingly, the IPL trade isn't a new thing. It started all the way back in 2009. Something important to understand is that these trades don't just happen looking at the attributes of a player. Teams also look at the brand image and what that player really brings in. Now, before we talk about the IPL trade and how that works and use examples and really understand the intricacies of these trades, hit that subscribe button, and here's a promo from our membership. So in the first test match, it took 10 overs and 2 wickets to score their first ever runs as a batting unit.
But he learned this googly and he brought it back to South Africa, taught it to all of his fellow leg spinners and his teammates in the squad, and they used it against the touring England side and absolutely destroyed them. Was from an area in the place in the stadium known as the Cage, who claimed, and I quote, that black people were intellectually inferior and lacked feel for cricket. Bradman's response to this, and I think this is beautiful: have you ever heard of Gary Sobers? That's all he said.
So this was a very, very crude way to go about showing the world that everything is normal, because
where it was clear that it was not normal and none of this was right. And so firstly, what is a player trade? As the name suggests, it is movement of a player from one franchisee to another. Now, this can be in two ways. One is a player-to-player swap, and this does not necessarily need to be a 1:1 transaction. For example, if you think back to the IPL of 2020, this is where Ajinkya Rahane was swapped for two players in Mayank Markande as well as Rahul Tewatia. Rahane moved from the Rajasthan Royals to the Delhi Capitals, while the two players moved from Delhi Capitals to the Rajasthan Royals. While this is the first option, another way that a player can be traded is in the form of an all-cash deal. As the name suggests, in this kind of trade, what happens is that a player moves from one franchise to the other, and in return there is money involved and a transfer fee as well. And these trades can take place during a certain trading window. Now, the usual trading window is as follows. The trading window opens 1 month after the end of the IPL season. From there, it continues up until 1 week before the auction, and then once the auction is completed, this trading window reopens up until 1 month before the start of the IPL season. And trading also isn't new. It's been going around since the start of the IPL. The trading window was activated back in 2009 when the Mumbai Indians got Shikhar Dhawan from then Delhi Daredevils in place of Ashish Nehra.
And this is where we'll get into the type of trades you can do as a franchisee. One is a one-way trade where a player moves from team A to team B in just a cash deal. The amount of money team B will have to pay team A for that particular player will depend on how much team A actually spent on the player in the auction. Or in Hardik Pandya's case, because he wasn't signed to Gujarat Titans through an auction, Mumbai Indians had to pay the signing fee to Gujarat Titans. The second kind of trade is a two-way trade where a player is swapped for another, with the differences in the price tags being paid by one team to another. And the best example of this is just before the IPL of 2024, Avish Khan was traded from LSG to RR for Devdutt, who moved from Rajasthan Royals to Lucknow Super Giants.
And naturally, the next question that arises is whether or not the player has a say in the trade and how much of a say they have in the trade. And of course, as is logical, the player's consent is most necessarily needed before the initiation of this trade. That being said, it can also be a player who can express a certain desire to their franchise to be able to move or go into the auction. And when any of this takes place through the right channels, you have an initiation of a trade deal. For example, when Hardik Pandya moved back from the Gujarat Titans to the Mumbai Indians, it was because he had expressed a desire to the Gujarat Titans CEO of wanting to move back to the Mumbai Indians franchise. However, if you think back to the IPL of 2010, similarly, Ravindra Jadeja had also been trying to move franchisees. Despite this, he ended up getting banned by the BCCI for certain reasons, and this is something we'll cover a little later in this video. And of course, although all the parties are involved in this and it has to be in agreement for all the parties for this initiation of the trade deal, the final say is still with the franchise. So if there is a situation where a player expresses the desire to move franchisees, but if the franchisee does not want to let them go, then the trade would not move ahead.
In all of these trades, not only does the franchise need to pay a player fee, but they also need to pay a transfer fee. Now, this fee is decided between the two teams, that is not disclosed to the public, but is only known by the IPL authorities. Something to note here is that this fee does not interfere with the auction purse at all. This is just kept with the franchisees. If you yet again take Hardik Pandya's example, the Mumbai Indians had to pay a transfer fee to the Gujarat Titans, which is of course undisclosed, and this transfer fee doesn't have an upper limit. And the next question, of course, is did Gujarat Titans pay any amount of the transfer fee to Hardik Hardik Pandya. Now this totally depends on the contract that the player has with the team and the team that's selling him. As per some contracts, a player can get up to 50% of the transfer fee, but there are also situations where the player gets no share of the transfer fee at all. And like I said before, the transfer fee and the auction purse are two separate things, where regardless of the amount of money a team gets because of the transfer fee, the auction purse doesn't increase or decrease. The auction purse totally depends on the player's price. This in turn and in principle, if you think about it, basically means that richer teams like Mumbai Indians, Royal Challengers Bangalore, or even Chennai Super Kings can pay any amount of money to another franchisee which is not as rich in the name of a transfer fee to lure players to come to their own team.
And this is where, before we move ahead to talking about Ravindra Jadeja and Sanju Samson and what that trade deal looks like, let's dial it back into the past, going into the 2010 season. All the trade deals used to take place back even in the day. Where Ravindra Jadeja messed up was that he did not go through the right channels. The problem with what Jaddu was doing was that he was in negotiations with other franchisees despite not letting his own franchise, Rajasthan Royals at the time, be aware of this deal. And so in a sense, what he was doing was going behind the franchisees back in having these negotiations and not having informed all of the parties involved. The other reason why this happened was also the fact that Ravindra Jadeja's contract with the Rajasthan Royals was over and he had not signed for an extension or a renewal. And because of this, neither the IPL Governing Council nor the BCCI were too happy with the proceeding of events, and because of this, Jaddu was banned for a couple of seasons in the IPL. And this is where we come back to the present day. Here's where we're looking at the Ravindra Jadeja and Sanju Samson trade deal that's been sparking rumors all over the internet. Now, it's important to understand why franchisees are looking to trade players and why these deals are even taking place in the first place. One of the main reasons, of course, and something that all franchisees are looking for, is balance in their squads and the kind of team combinations they're going to field, which depends on a lot of factors, right from the past to the present, and also planning for the future. As is the case in this trade deal between Ravindra Jadeja and Sanju Samson and the franchisees involved in Chennai Super Kings as well as the Rajasthan Royals, you can see that there are a lot of factors affecting this deal. The first reason, of course, is that the Rajasthan Royals have not really had a good spin bowling all-rounder from numbers 4 to 7 ever in their history. This is also very evident in Rajasthan Royals' history. We looked at the batters that they've had from numbers 4 to 7 who have also doubled up as people who can bowl well. And what's surprising and stands out here is that it's Riyan Parag who in these positions has had the most number of runs for the Rajasthan Royals. And that's not even the most surprising bit, because Ravindra Jadeja, despite last having played for Rajasthan Royals, was back in 2009, is still the fourth highest run scorer at those positions. And what this points to is that there have been very few batters who have been able to bowl well for the Rajasthan Royals at numbers 4 to 7. And this is exactly why this trade deal would also make a lot of sense for Rajasthan Royals. Not only will Rajasthan Royals in this case get India's premium spin bowling all-rounder, but they'll also get someone who has a lot of experience. Here's a man who's won multiple IPL titles, is handy with the bat and also really good with the ball, and will also fit in brilliantly into those conditions. In essence, ever since the Rajasthan Royals lost Ravichandran Ashwin at that position, they haven't been able to find a good enough player, and Jaddu would be the perfect fit. And when it comes to the player who will be swapped in Sanju Samson, it's very evident why that would be important for CSK. CSK as a franchise is always someone who's looked for an Indian wicketkeeper, and in fact had the best Indian wicketkeeper in MS Dhoni as a part of their franchise right from the start. The moment MS Dhoni leaves the franchise, there's a vacuum not just for an Indian player but an Indian wicketkeeper who has the leadership abilities. With Sanju Samson fitting that mold, he would be the perfect replacement for an MS Dhoni coming into the CSK side.
But as a fan, you really need to understand that these trades don't necessarily always happen looking at the attributes of a player. And these trades can also happen looking at the brand image and the brand value that the player brings into the franchise. For example, if you look at the simple trade between Gujarat Titans and Mumbai Indians for Hardik Pandya, as much as Hardik Pandya got a lot of hate at that moment, it made a lot of sense for Mumbai Indians to bring Hardik Pandya back into the team. Not only did Hardik Pandya at that time win an IPL title with Gujarat Titans, but he was also the captain of the Indian team. And so for Mumbai Indians to bring back Hardik Pandya home, as they called it back then, after winning an IPL title and being the Indian team captain, it only made sense for Hardik Pandya to be part of the Mumbai Indians ecosystem, making Hardik Pandya the Mumbai Indians captain while Rohit Sharma continued to play with the Mumbai Indians. And the ongoing conversation with Jadeja and Samson would also make sense for each franchisee, right? Because we already know how big of a fan base Sanju Samson really has. With Jadeja's and Dhoni's career almost coming to to an end, they will need another figure with Ruturaj Gaikwad to make sure CSK as a franchise is really well known as a brand. Now, as much as Dhoni's presence will still be felt after his retirement, you will need an active player who can carry on the legacy. And that is what you essentially might possibly get with Sanju Samson. And with Jadeja going back to RR, that is a story in itself and a whole cycle that might just be complete. Because as we all know, Jadeja made his IPL debut with Rajasthan Royals. Now, brand images and brand values aren't an old thing in the IPL. There is a reason for why Virat Kohli will never leave RCB and MS Dhoni will never leave Chennai Super Kings. Because it's players like these that bring in brand value to the team.
Lastly, these trades are also important for the player as well as the franchise. Of course, these trades only take place because it is beneficial to all of the parties involved. Now, for a franchisee, not only in terms of their brand value and their brand image, but also in terms of possibly getting closer to an IPL trophy. Whereas for the players, it's important not just for their IPL careers, but in a lot of cases, also for the case they can make for themselves to represent India. In this particular example, it's very clear that Ravindra Jadeja might never get a leadership role at the Chennai Super Kings. And this is obviously because of how badly he goofed up when he was given the captaincy and how bad that season went for the Chennai Super Kings. Whereas with Jadeja moving to Rajasthan Royals with the sentimental value attached and also the fact that he has all of this experience, recently became the vice captain of India in the test format, it means that he actually has a chance to become the captain of the Rajasthan Royals. And for Sanju Samson, once again it comes down to the captaincy. Where Sanju Samson was the captain at RR, the last season where he was injured for a bit meant that Riyan Parag was looked at as the new captain. And of course, with all of the debate around Yashasvi Jaiswal and even now possibly Dhruv Jurel in contention for captaincy, it would make sense for Sanju Samson in his best interest to move franchisees to be able to get the captaincy. And it's not necessarily the case that it's only the players in the trade deal who will benefit from the trade deal taking place. For example, when Hardik Pandya moved from the Gujarat Titans to the Mumbai Indians, it was also big up for Shubman Gill. And this was because he was then promoted to the captain of the Gujarat Titans, and eventually that snowballed into him now in a position where he has become the India captain. This has been a video on how the IPL trade works and what the situation is with the Sanju Samson as well as the Ravindra Jadeja trade. Now, if you've liked this video and have been seeing a lot of rumors all over the internet, definitely like this video, share it with your friends, leave all of your comments down below, and we'll discuss all of this on our Discord channel. All of our other links are also in the description, so give us a follow if you haven't already. We also have memberships, so if you aren't already a member, definitely consider buying it. There's going to be a lot of content every week on that. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.